Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. So at the time of recording this video, it's February 4th, 2024 at 10:31 p.m. And we have some new news about KX826 or Pyrilutamide, a topical anti-androgen treatment currently in clinical trials for androgenetic alopecia or male pattern, also known as female pattern hair loss, as well as treatment for acne vulgaris. The recent development in the search for effective treatments for androgenetic alopecia have been marked by both setbacks and new directions, particularly in the context of KX826 pyrilutamide. Notably, pyrilutamide recently faced a significant hurdle when the drug did not meet expected outcomes in a phase 3 clinical study conducted in China. Now, this study was a randomized, double-blind, multi-center clinical trial. So whatever data came out of it would be very, very robust and reliable. Now, despite this setback, we now have news of a new clinical trial to test pyrilutamide with Minoxidil, and this offers a ray of hope. Minoxidil, we all know, is a well-established treatment for androgenetic alopecia with decades of clinical use, and it provides us a solid foundation upon which to compare and understand the effects of pyrilutamide in a combination therapy setting, also in a setting where the two drugs go head-to-head. So I think the study will kind of look like this, right? We'll have one group that gets placebo. So they're not really getting any sort of active ingredient. They're not getting pyrilutamide or minoxidil. Essentially, they're just getting water to put on their head, right? Then we have a group that also gets minoxidil. Cool. Then we have a group that gets pyrilutamide. Cool. Then we have another group that gets pyrilutamide and minoxidil combination therapy at the same time. And finally, which I'm really hoping for, we get a group that has a higher concentration of pyrilutamide. Now, these are too many groups, I understand that, but we really need to have a sort of concentration that's higher than 0.5% because, well, if you guys don't remember, that was the concentration of pyrilutamide that failed in the phase 3 clinical trial testing that took place in China recently. From my perspective, the concentration of pyrilutamide used in the previous phase 3 clinical trial in China, which was set at 0.5%, may have been a limiting factor in its efficacy. Now, this viewpoint is grounded in the principle that the drug's concentration plays a critical role in the pharmacodynamics of topical treatments for conditions like androgenetic alopecia, where the drug's ability to penetrate and act on the hair follicle level is very important and essential. Now, what are those two laws, right? The two laws that come to mind are Fick's law. So Fick's law states that the higher the concentration of a particular molecule on the skin, the easier it is for that molecule to penetrate and go into deeper layers of the skin, right? The other law would be, or more so rule, it's called the 500 Dalton rule, and it essentially states that as molecules approach 500 Daltons and go beyond 500 Daltons, it becomes increasingly difficult to penetrate into the skin. So pyrilutamide has a pretty high Dalton, or molecular weight. This is also known as the molar mass. So its molar mass, Dalton, whatever, is 482.43 grams per mole. That is pretty large. Now, this could make things difficult because if you do increase the concentration, you have to make sure that, okay, we aren't getting a lot of systemic absorption, or if any at all. So I proposed that maybe we can go to a 2% concentration or a 5% concentration where we can see if increasing the concentration impacts the improvement of hair count, right? And maybe if we do that, we can kind of get away without getting any sort of systemic side effects. But the risk of systemic side effects goes up if we do increase the concentration. So it's like this delicate balancing ground that Kintor kind of has to figure out, because Kintor as a company would be leaving a lot of money on the table if, let's say, it is true that at a higher concentration of 2% or 5%, pyrilutamide would improve hair counts tremendously. Then, yeah, Kintor All I'm saying is Kintor has to look into this particular direction. I'm really hoping that they consider raising the concentration above 0.5%. But I can see why they were conservative with staying at this, I guess you can say, relatively low concentration. Because the reality is, like I stated with the fixed law, if you do increase the concentration, there is a chance that you could get some systemic absorption. And because pyrilutamide is really, really effective, because it does have that really low IC50 score. And a low IC50 score means the drug is really good at doing what it's supposed to do. In this case, it's really good at blocking the androgen receptor. So if that gets into your body, okay, it will degrade at some point, but that could harm the safety profile of pyrilutamide. And right now, pyrilutamide has a really, really good safety profile because in all of the clinical trials, there hasn't been any major sort of side effect other than contact dermatitis. So there wasn't any sort of systemic changes to people's hormonal profiles. It looks really, really promising in the safety department. So I think, in my opinion, Kintor at least has to give this a shot, 2% or 5%. Because honestly, I don't see how much things can change here. Let's say that the phase 3 clinical trial, the multi-center, double-blinded, placebo-controlled, randomized, this was a really, really good phase 3 clinical trial that they did. Let's say that there was an issue there, right? And let's say that issue was that maybe for whatever reason, everybody got pyrilutamide, right? Everyone was treated with pyrilutamide on their scalps, even the so-called placebo group. That could explain why there was no statistical difference between the treatment group and the placebo group. Let's say that's a situation. Okay, that is a situation mostly on the competency of the researchers and the people who are administering the drug and the compounding of this particular medication, right? Let's say that is the issue. It's a compounding issue and there were some logistics that went wrong. That may have happened, who knows? But if that's not the issue, then the issue is with pyrilutamide itself, and maybe the molecule isn't effective in vivo and that IC50 doesn't really mean much. Or, and this is the one I'm going to put my hat on, it's that pyrilutamide at a 0.5% concentration may have some sort of benefit to the hair follicle that's facing miniaturization from DHT, but that benefit is not as pronounced as it would be if we experiment at a higher concentration. So what I'm trying to say is, I'm saying that the issue is that 0.5% concentration is way too small for this particular drug. But I do think this is good news that we're going to see this new phase 3 clinical trial that puts pyrilutamide head-to-head with minoxidil and also tries to combine the two, right? I do think this will be really nice because now the researchers will have new data, a robust data set, which they could uncover factors that may have contributed to the earlier trial's failure, such as, like I said, concentration levels, patient selection, application protocols, and maybe just other things that will be discovered. So who knows? So this video went on longer than I wanted it to, but I just had some things to say. But that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Comment in the comment section below. Green star if you got this far. And yeah, see you guys.